Go ahead, Jeff, you're on.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here and be a part of the LMEA conference. Let me get my start slides back to the beginning here. Here we go. Technology is a beautiful thing. Bear with me just for a minute. Sorry for the delayed start there. I thought Brett was going to be with me at the beginning. I was waiting for him. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Again, it's a pleasure to be a part of the conference. I want to thank LMEA for having me. I have been thinking about this particular presentation for some time. As I judge bands across the state, sometimes I think about the younger directors and what it is that might be able to help them to achieve their goals at assessment. So one of the things that I've been looking at is the actual LMEA form itself, which has changed recently, in case you don't know that. But a normal way that we approach going to a contest, lots of teachers experience, is just thinking about my band has to have fundamentals, then I've got to rehearse my music, and then I go to assessment. Today, what I'd like to take a minute to look at is just, let's flip that on its head for a minute, and let's look at the assessment piece first. You know, what's on that form? That assessment form is basically an open book test. It shows you exactly what you need to do in order to achieve your goal of that superior rating when you go to assessment. And then back up into rehearsal, you know, what do I do in rehearsal to meet the requirements that's on the assessment form? You know, addressing interpretation, musicality, artistry, those things during rehearsal. And then there's also fundamentals are part of that form. So just taking the form, looking at it, working our way back through rehearsal and into fundamentals in order to achieve our goal of that superior rating. So just a brief look at the form. Many of you have seen one similar to this. This is the newest version that's come out just recently. The 5 captions on here, I break them down into 2 categories: the fundamentals and then things that get taken care of in rehearsal. The tone quality is a fundamental that you have to work on all the time, intonation, technique. And then the balance and musicianship part is something that you do while you're rehearsing the music. There's some more detail on that coming up. One thing I want to point out right here while we're looking at the form is everybody's goal is to get that 1 up in the upper right-hand corner. And a lot of people focus on that. And I noticed it with younger teachers too. They focus on what's in the upper right-hand corner. What I want to draw your attention to today is the other scoring boxes, okay? The tone quality score, the intonation score, the technique score. And I want to think about our goal being to make an A in each of those captions, make that our first goal, and then the rating just becomes a product of what we've done in these 5 captions. If you take care of business in the captions, then the 1 is going to magically appear in the upper right-hand corner. I promise. So here's a couple ideas for you as you prepare your groups for assessment in the future. First, we're going to talk about caption 1, just briefly, so we have time for some questions later if we need to. These are the subcategories in caption 1. Characteristic sound for the age group. Does the band play with control? Is the tone centered and focused? Consistency within sections and consistency in all ranges. Okay, so that's what is in that caption 1. That's the test. Do we meet this goal? Do we meet this rubric? Can we do these things? Does our band sound like this? Is it centered and focused? Is it under control? So first of all, tone is the first caption for a reason, I think. I firmly believe that tone quality is the most fundamental of all fundamentals. Without a quality tone, everything else, all the other 4 captions are affected by the fact that we don't have good tone. So this is number 1 when you're preparing or when you're teaching your students. Tone quality has to be where you start, okay? First thing I want to emphasize is that tone is not something that you rehearse. You don't rehearse up tone for a performance, okay? Tone is something that you have to spend time on. And I've talked to many young teachers who maybe they got a 2nd division and they said, but my band did so many things right. They did this well, they did that well, they worked so hard, but we still didn't break into the superior rating. And oftentimes I'll say, how long have you been at the school? And they'll say, well, I've only been there this year. And my response is often, this band was very well prepared, but tone quality and intonation, which we'll get to in a minute, are things that don't happen overnight. Like on the slide, no quick fix. There's no quick fix for tone. You can't walk in January and have a contest in April, and if the band needs to work on the tone quality, it's just not going to happen that fast. It's something that happens over long term. Young directors have to learn to look out 3-5 years. What do I want this band to sound like? And this judging form actually is a great way to sort of plan it out. Okay, how am I going to build tone so I get an A in box 1? Well, on the right-hand side, I'm not going to walk through these because many of you already are doing these things, or you know about these things. But everything starts with fundamental sound, and there it is on the top. Okay, you've got to do all of these things as you read through this list in order to develop the tone quality in your group. And you have to reinforce it during rehearsal, right? If they're going to play with a good sound in warm-up, work on a good sound in warm-up, we have to do the same thing in rehearsal. Okay, so I do want to point out the percussion techniques here. Percussion instruments, cymbals, timpani, bass drums, snare drums, all have a characteristic sound just like a trumpet and a trombone do. Okay, so that is something that gets left out sometimes. What mallet are we using? How is that blending with the rest of the band? Those things. So that's something to be aware of also. And then lastly, outside of the exercises above, I can't stress enough the importance of building an awareness in your students of what a good sound is. And we have a great opportunity now with many of you doing some virtual assignments, and maybe you're not rehearsing as much, or part of your class is virtual, is to give them listening assignments. And you can even do that in a normal environment. Okay, go home and listen to the best trombone player you can find, or give them a trombone player to listen to, and have them write a critique on it, just so they're hearing what that sounds like. There's the aural image that all musicians have to develop in order to produce a good sound. You have to be able to hear it first. Okay, all right. So that's caption 1, building tone. And then caption 2, how to get an A in caption 2, intonation. Okay, the things that we have to meet is the melodic line has to be in tune. This is interesting. Sometimes I find with younger teachers that this is confusing to them, but when you play a melody horizontally, it can be out of tune horizontally, like this interval of a fifth is wider than it should be, or this interval of a third is lower. So we have to make sure we play the melody all the way across. Obviously, unison's chords need to be in tune, and then the intonation has to cover not only just the whole band, but also within each section. So these are the little subcategories in intonation. And let's talk a little bit about how we might achieve those in order to make that A in caption 2, intonation. The very first thing I want to stress is what's in the purple on the left. It takes tenacity and patience to teach a band to play in tune. It will not happen from August until March. If you're a new teacher and you're starting at a place, or you're someplace you need to rebuild, or your band's not playing as in tune, or you've got a bunch of young players, it won't happen without daily tenacity about playing in tune. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. Also, patience. Kids have to learn how to listen. Okay, we'll visit that in a second. And last is awareness. The band director cannot be the only person worried about intonation. The students in the ensemble must be taught to be aware of intonation and what it sounds like when it's right and what it sounds like when it's wrong. We have to point out those things. Okay, so first thing is, you're never going to play in tune if you don't have that good tone box. So if you got a C sounding band in that first box, you're never going to make an A in intonation. It will not happen. Okay, because if you play out of tone, you can never play in tune. So that I go back to tone being number 1. So good tone is essential. The reason when we say somebody has a bad tone, it's because their overtones are out of tune. That's what we're hearing. Okay, so the overtones must be in tune, which gives us that big round sound. And they have to know what that sounds like. So give them some listening assignment. Band directors should tune every single day, right? And not just to set the instrument, but they need to tune with their ears some, with the machine. Get them in the habit of checking their own intonation before rehearsal starts. Okay, you have so many tools now to almost make it fun. Like there's the the application, I forget what it's called, where the green smiley face comes up when the student plays in tune. That's a great thing for middle school kids to start that awareness, what I talk about of intonation. When you tune individuals in the band, which is a great thing to do, you do have time, no matter how short your band period is. If you plan ahead, you do have time to tune everybody in the band every day. The most important thing about that, though, is that you get to hear them individually. You get to hear their tone. You get to hear their how they're moving their fingers. You get to see that individual's technique. You get to see how they're sitting in the chair, and you can make those adjustments. When I tuned individuals as a middle school and high school band director, I called it my mini lesson time. I would just very quickly say, you got to sit up, you got to drop your jaw, it's a great time to teach and get kids to play in tune. You, as a band director, need to know the pitch tendencies of the instrument. You know, the brass is 6 partial is sharp. The saxophone C sharp down there is really flat. You know, you've got to know all of these things in order for your band to play in tune. And if you share that information, your students will lock it in. They never ever think that, oh, they don't need to know that because I learned that in graduate school, or I learned that in working on my bachelor's degree. I don't need to share that. Yes, share them, those little things. Everything you learned in your lesson as a student in college, you should share with your ensembles. Everything about playing in tune. Okay. Also, the band director has to know how to tune chords. Lower the third, you know, when you're on a nice major chord under a fermata or whatever. Share this information also and talk about it. Talk about it with the group so it becomes something that they're aware of. Again, stressing the awareness factor. Okay. There is only one magic formula, okay, to playing in tune. And it's not chorales, and it's not concert F, and it's not concert A, and it's not any of those other things out there that you can buy books about, okay? The only way to play in tune is if you teach your ensembles to actively listen, okay? You don't want your students to hear each other. You want them to listen to each other. Actively turn on the ears and listen. And I'll tell you why it's magic, because our gray matter, believe it or not, is not designed to play out of tune. It will not play out of tune if your ears are turned on, okay? You will just play in tune. It just will happen. As long as you have a good horn, a basic good sound, if you're listening, you will play in tune. And it's like using the force. I tease my band all the time. Make sure you're using the force. Turn the ears on, and we're going to play in tune. It happens. And it's something you just talk about every day. Just, again, heighten that awareness. And then there's my last point there that I've kind of driven home a little bit on this slide, is that if the students are listening and conscious of what intonation is, you're going to watch that intonation in your group get better and better and better over time. Okay. Again, tenacity, patience, awareness. All right. Technique. Good. So here's a list of technique things that come in caption 3, technique. And then there's some ways to guarantee yourself an A rating in this box. But here's the list of things. I'm not going to read them to you, but I just want to point something out, especially if there's some young teachers out there, that the tempo pulse part of this sheet, okay, here it is right here. And it's 1/8 of one caption of 5 captions is tempo pulse, okay? Younger teachers tend to get fixated. Some of it is the marching band culture that we have, where we use the metronome a lot and we're conscious of time, putting our feet down, which is fine. But the tempo pulse is 1/8 of one of 5 captions to get your rating. So don't get obsessed with that, okay? Tempo and time is something that you can fix. It's super important, super important. But I think in the priority list of things, tone, intonation, musicality, blah, 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 if you're doing those things, tempo pulse is going to kind of find itself. And then eventually, if you need it, then you can work on it. But just 1/8 of 1/5, okay? So don't obsess on tempo. Let's take care of all of the other things too. All right, so here's how we can get an A, I think, in caption 3. To build technique. First of all, this is another thing that can't be rehearsed, okay? You can't put your 3 pieces for contest in front of the band and make their technique better. It's not going to happen. There is no quick fix to this. There's seriously no quick fix. It's another one of those long-term things. If you're a young band director and you're looking out, you got to look out 3-5 years. How am I going to make this technique better? Okay. So I have a couple bullets here that I'll share with you. Many of you will know about, know some of this already, but so many people now are like sort of writing their own warm-ups or using the warm-up they used in college, or somebody tells them this warm-up worked good for this group, and find a technique book. It's almost like an old school thing now. Not many people, at least when I walk around and visit, not many people have this book of things to rehearse and practice. Okay. So whether it's Tips for Band or the Claude T. Smith book or the 3D band book or Essential Elements, whatever it is, just find one and get in there and start working on some of these things, because scales, arpeggios, etudes, all of those things are what is going to build your technique in your ensemble. The other key is that you don't just play what's in the book, you also provide feedback. You use tempos that are appropriate. So you start with the scales. Maybe they can't play their D major scale at 120 beats per minute. Okay, slow it down and let them get the muscle memory, and then bring it all together, and then that technique will happen. Be very easy. Also, prioritize articulation. I see also, when I judge, I see a whole lot of bands that have two articulations, tongued and slurred. Okay, there are a vast array of articulations, from legato to tenuto to marcato to staccato. And inside your band room, you have to define what those are. You have to, even our big 350-piece marching band at Northwestern State does articulation studies every rehearsal, every warm-up. It's short, but they're all taught what we expect when we see this accent or that staccato or this accent. They are taught exactly what we expect lengthwise and volume-wise, okay? So prioritize articulation. It can really put a sparkle and a shine on your performance if your articulation is good and clean. Don't forget to rehearse releases. This is something that gets left off when I'm judging. I notice all the time. What my friend Mark Minton calls the right side of the note. You know, make sure you're rehearsing the right side of the note all the time. And where does that end? And we got to end it together. Oftentimes, if you don't know where that note ends, okay, then the next note is not in the right place because you didn't play right up to the release and feel that release. And then the next note might be early or late because you either quit too early on a note or quit too late on a note. Okay. Many of you know, especially my students, know my thoughts on the metronome. The metronome is a great tool. It's a wonderful tool, especially for beginners, and maybe as part of your kind of daily warm-up, just to build that internal pulse, okay? But it's a tool when you start rehearsing music for just establishing some things tempo-wise, or working out a tricky spot that you have to line it up, and you want to line it up with the metronome. The metronome kind of can turn a band into a downbeat band, where the downbeats become the most important thing, and that's not always the case, okay? So just use it as a tool. Don't obsess on it. Don't obsess on time, okay? There's too much other music around those things, all right? That's just my advice. Lastly, there's this kind of thing in our world, in our profession, and I hear it a lot, and it's, if I choose great literature, the band will grow into it. That will not happen, okay? It won't happen. If your student has to play the B-flat scale in the trio of a march at 120 beats a minute, 16th notes, okay, they're not going to learn how to do that by playing that march. They're going to learn how to do it by practicing it from the technique book. And then when they get to the march, they're going to go, oh, this is the B-flat scale, and they'll be done with it, okay? That's what makes it easy, is providing that technique ahead of time. Then you go in to the music, and then they're able to play it. Same thing for range. There's a high C in the whole chaconne for the first trumpet. Everybody wants to play that piece. But if your first trumpet player has a G, and that's the only spot they can make a beautiful, great sound, then don't ask him to play the C, because he's just going to get frustrated and he's going to get mad and he's not going to have any fun at what he's doing. And by the way, just by trying to get that C every day in rehearsal, he's not going to get any more range. Okay. The only way to get more range is to do the things we talked about back in tone quality and lip slurs and range builders and scales and things. So please just kind of drop that from your lexicon if you're using it, or if you hear somebody say it, just smile nicely and then move on. All right, caption 4. Now this gets a little bit away from this is a fundamental, but gets a little bit away from that sort of fundamental teaching and more into a rehearsal aspect. But here are the things that the little sub captions for caption 4 balance, which is blend, which we'll talk about in a minute in detail. Melodic awareness across the whole band, and then also the balance within sections as well as the ensemble. So let's look at how are we going to balance our band to get an A, okay, in caption 4. Well, First of all, that it's the directors, you, that are going to define the balance of your band, and you have to develop your own aural image of what you want to hear. If you just walk in and start balancing things based on whatever you hear that particular day, then it's never going to be consistent. It's never going to be the same, and you're going to use different words, and then the kids are going to be confused because you're using different words. Develop that aural image, and I honestly suggest that your aural image be the Air Force band or the Marine band or something like that. You get those sounds and that image in your head, and that's what you strive for. In case you're saying, I only have a middle school band and they're not going to sound like the Marine band, or at my high school, my AA high school is not going to sound like the Marine band. Wait, but your expectation in your ear is that you're going to get closer to it than if you're not. Coach Vince Lombardi said, perfection is not possible, but if you shoot for perfection, then you're likely to get excellence. Okay. And that's what, if I taught 8th grade band right now, I would have the Marine band in my ear as how I wanted the band to sound and balance. Okay. And then just work toward it. And guess what? You'll be surprised how far you can get if you do that. So have your own image of what you want that to sound like. So a couple of thoughts on that, and it's up to you. There's the organ kind of sound. Some people want that even all the way across, nice organ sound. There's the old pyramid of sound. Everybody knows the pyramid of sound. For some of us, it's more textural. I don't want a wash of an organ. I want to hear all the colors, in my band. So I have all these mosaic balances, that I use, different pieces. I want that more than this more than that, in different. So whatever your concept is, just make sure you have one. Okay. When you go in, and you'll be surprised having that aural image, how far you can get with that. Okay. Section balance is easy. It's just always more seconds, more thirds and seconds, more seconds than firsts. You just make that happen. And when you listen, make sure that that's happening, and that's going to get you section balance every time. And it's a beautiful sound. It's a great way to go. Okay. Blend is confusing, especially for young teachers. I find, what does blend mean? I'm going to give you one example. There are many, but I'll give you one that makes it easy. Ron Nelson, composer, many of you may know, talked about this one time. I had the opportunity to see him talk about it. Maybe it was in a book, but composers, when they choose instruments, are not always looking for, if they have an oboe and a clarinet playing in octaves, okay, they're not always looking for, they don't want the sound of a clarinet and an oboe playing in octaves. What they want is the clobo, right? They want that color. That's the definition of blend in a nutshell, right? You want instruments to come together to make a sound that's different than their individual sound, okay? So there's a tone that's going to come off the stage that is not an oboe and not a clarinet. It's the clobo. That's what blend is about. And then I'll give you a quick thought on that. I'll use melodic octaves as an example. If you have melodic octaves in a piece, and the lower part is always louder. Most of you know this. Some of you may not realize it, but not only does it affect the balance and this blend sound that we want, but it also affects intonation. If the upper octave can hear the lower octave really well, the intonation gets better just like that. It's almost like magic. When I show my students this in rehearsal, sometimes their jaws open up because they just can't believe how fast the intonation got better by just raising that lower octave in volume or in the balance, okay? All right, so that's the short answer on blend. Your whole band must know the themes of the music. Nowadays, with all the tools that you have, your finales and your flex band arrangements and everything else, there's really no reason for any of us not to pass out a sheet of paper with the main themes of our assessment music on it, and have everybody, not just the clarinets and trumpets and alto sax, play the melody, but have the tubas play the melody, have the percussion play the melody. And so everybody gets an awareness of where that melody is and how it travels through harmonies, and how it's varied later. They can hear it with a variation on it sometime later, whatever, because they're familiar with it. So everybody needs to be familiar with the themes, not only just to make them better players, but also so that they're listening for those themes, and they can help you with balance. You don't have to balance everything all the time if they're aware. Okay. And then share your priorities with the ensemble. Sometimes I even, forget to do this. I forget to share with my ensemble what it is that I expect from a balance perspective. So make sure you're sharing those things. Then last, just like intonation, the students must internalize this awareness of balance. They must be conscious of it all the time, which goes back to active listening, okay? So balance is something that you're going to do in rehearsal when you're rehearsing music primarily, or chorales maybe in a warm-up, but it's an ensemble fundamental. Balance is not something you necessarily do by yourself, right? So scales and arpeggios and all of that, something you can do by yourself. This is an ensemble fundamental, and it's part of your rehearsal, and something you need to take care of in order to get an A in box number 4. So, all right, getting near the end now. So musicianship, and then here are the sort of sub-captions under the musicianship caption. How am I going to get an A in musicianship? This is one of the most objective captions here, because you have interpretation, which from me to someone else could be different. Expression may mean something different to people. Phrasing is something that you can put your fingers on. Are we phrasing music? Are we giving the line some movement forward? Style, and then there's tempo again, but again, don't obsess on tempo. Appropriate tempo, 1/7 of 1/5 in order to get your rating. 1/7 of 1/5 in order to get your rating. Do not obsess on it. That's something that you can fix quite easily. There's too much other music. Look around, what's around tempo in this thing. Artistry, expression, interpretation. And that's the real fun in music, to be honest. And I'll just opine for a second here. If you're playing music that's too hard for your group, it's very hard to achieve this. Okay, it's extremely hard to achieve musicianship, because to get music, to get artistry, to get expression, to get interpretation, the musicians have to have a full knowledge, a full understanding, a full contemplation of what the music is, not just trying to get through that 16 bars in the middle of the piece, that where the technique is tough, or trying to play that high C like I mentioned earlier. So the glory in music comes not from playing the hardest piece. The glory in music comes from playing a great piece of music, regardless of the grade level of it, to this level, to the artistic level, to the musicianship level. That is the glory in music, okay? Playing, you might notice on the sheet, there's no degree of difficulty like they have in diving, okay? So you're not going to get any points, for playing something really hard with your single A band, okay? You're still going to have to do everything in all 5 captions, regardless, okay? All right, cool. So how do we do this musicianship thing? Well, you could almost give a course on this for a semester, but I'll touch this briefly. I'll start with this quote on the left, and I forgot to attribute to who it was from, and I got to go back and check that. But play only what is on the page and you will be wrong, okay? So there's a large percentage of what happens musically that is not in the ink, everybody, okay? So we've got to find ways to bring out that expression, bring out that artistry, and there are some ways to do that. I'll start by this. If captions 1 through 4 are B's and C's or C's and D's, then there's no way you're going to make music, okay? You're just not, because if you got bad tone quality, you got bad intonation, you got bad technique, or average even technique, there's no way to make music, because you're too busy struggling just trying to play the music. You're not going to be able to add anything to it, okay? So again, another reason to make sure that you're playing music that you can achieve 1 through 4 in, so that you can really sing here and have the glory, have the fun part of music, which is this music making part, at least for me. So keep that in mind. Many of you, if I've judged your band and you got a B or a C in this caption from me, I probably said, your balance or your tone or your intonation affected this caption. You may have heard me say that before if I've judged your band. It's something that I bring up quite a bit just to reinforce how important those first 4 captions are, okay? All right, so music nearly always has direction. You got to figure out where it's going. Is it melodic direction? Is it harmonic direction? What's the goal of it? And it doesn't mean beginning to end necessarily all the time, okay? It can mean from the beginning to letter A, there's sort of an end point, and then something restarts, and then so direction is kind of toward that. Where are we going? Sometimes it's short, sometimes it's really long. I spend a lot of time telling my ensembles, okay, we're starting here at B, but H way at the end is your goal. That's where this thing lands. Okay. And it takes maturity to find those lines and to find that direction across larger pieces of music. Okay. The director should listen to professional ensembles performing quality literature and get these things in your ear. I kind of stressed that earlier, but you've got to listen, make it a focused listening. You can't listen while you're doing the dishes or even while you're driving. You have to sit someplace quiet and take it in, hopefully with a score, even if you have the opportunity, and take it in and just soak up what the conductor's doing. And if it's on YouTube and it's a live performance, turn off your judge's hat and just listen to what's going on, you know, in the music. I had one of my conducting students ask me, how do I learn how to make rubato work? How do I learn how to do rubato right? How do I learn how to shape a phrase? And I'm gonna my daughter is a musical theater major, and this is gonna sound a little bit funny, but I told him to listen to Broadway, because you got to be able to feel that schmaltz, right? That sort of over the top, buttery, creamy, sappy musicality. You've got to take yourself to that place, and then find out what's appropriate for the music that you're performing with your group. But and then also the Verismo operas of Puccini. You know, the operas of Puccini and Verdi is not so much. Late opera composers. Puccini is the best, actually, to just grab some of that and listen to how they stretch, pull, hold the leading tone, milk this dominant chord before it hits the tonic. You know, just all these little subtle things. And if you listen to those things, preferably with a score, but if you don't, it doesn't matter if you don't have one. Just listen to that great music, and then this sort of ebb and flow of rubato in music and the phrase shapes become natural to you. It becomes something that you're used to hearing. Too many of us lock ourselves into what's on that page, and there's way more to be done than that. Okay. And then never stop developing your own musicianship. You're doing this right now. You're at this conference and you're listening to people talk and making decisions about how you're going to apply these things to your own musicianship. That's fantastic, and I commend you for it, but never stop it. Okay. I tell my students, once you've decided that you know it all, your career is done. Please retire, because nobody wants you teaching our kids. If you think you know it all already, you need to keep learning and keep making it better. Prepare your scores with integrity. Okay. And I'll just be very simple on this. Nobody should walk in and sight read with their students, ever. Go in and be prepared and have your preparation done, where you could conduct a concert the night of their first rehearsal as the conductor. That's where you need to be as a conductor, so that you can deal with the musical things and not worry about figuring out the rhythm yourself or how you're going to do the fermata in front of your ensembles. You're going to save hours, man, over a semester or a year in school by having yourself totally prepared and not sight reading along with the kids. Excuse me real quick. Okay. And then I've already harped on that. Musicianship's not in the score. You got to do some listening. And then lastly, I will tell you, for musicality, in order to be really musical, sometimes you have to take some risks. You know, we're going to generate a lot of energy here. You know, push the kids. You know, no bad sounds, but push that volume a little bit, stretch that a little bit, play as soft as you know. Go for maybe the trio, that march is going to be so soft. Maybe some brass player's note doesn't speak or whatever because he's taking that risk. You know, that's okay. Take some risk. There's nothing wrong with that when you're making great music. Lastly, I didn't mention on dynamics earlier, but I do want to say this. If you can keep this little golden nugget in your pocket when you're dealing with what's a good sound and what's a bad sound and dynamics and all that, your dynamic range is only what your kids can do and maintain a good sound. Okay. So piano is as soft as you can play with a great tone quality and great intonation. Okay. That's where your piano is. And if it's this much higher than somebody else's piano, well, so be it. You know, and if your range is that instead of that, well, that's okay. You can work on that and make it better next year. But don't sacrifice that tone quality for that soft dynamic. And then on the other end, don't let them lose their tone quality by playing too loud. Find where your range is. And nobody wants to hear a mezzo forte band. I mean, I don't want to hear that, right? But if that's where your band is, okay, well, go and do that, what you can between there, and then just expand it through all of the fundamentals over the years. And again, that's not a quick fix either. Okay, let's see. I think we have gotten through the form. Yes. So most importantly is that I'm an open book, folks, and I'm really good with email. So if anybody wants to reach out with questions or have me come down for a clinic or something, all my clinics are free. I never charge anybody for a clinic. If I can schedule it, I'll be happy to come out as long as you give me 5 minutes to tell them how great Northwestern State is and being in the band is. I'm happy to come out and clinic your group. Okay, let's see. Do we have any questions? Oh, yeah, here we go. Oh, those are statements. I wish I could see it. I'm not seeing and hearing anybody, which. Yeah. All right. I'm looking for questions. I don't see many questions. Is Brett on board?
Hey, Jeff. I don't see any questions, but some really great comments so far,
okay.
Man.
Cool. Great. Well, if anybody has anything, I guess they have to type it in the chat, I suppose.
There's one here now. It says, do you have a list of recommended tech books from Gil?
Yeah, I kind of just went through a bunch. There's the book that started in Texas, the Superior Performance book, is a great book. However, I'm going to caveat that with you have to learn the book. You can't just go play number 6. The book there's ways to manipulate that book where the brass can play number, I can't think of the right number, but I'll just say 5. Brass play line 5 and woodwinds play line 42 or whatever. And then the lines will mesh and make something work, but the woodwinds get to do technique while the brass play their long tones, things like that. So that's a wonderful book. But again, you got to really get in there and get after it. Look, there's the Tips for Band gang, Mike Spears and those guys in West Monroe, and then now Robbie and Myron Turner. I mean, I'm sure it's still in that folder. If it's not, but it's been there for years, and there's nothing wrong with that book. Just because it's old doesn't mean it's not viable. Okay. Again, old school. The some people say Fussell, some people say Fussell book. That book is boring. Okay. For students because it's just pages and pages of notes, but all of the stuff in there is fantastic. So that's kind of my top 3, and I'm sure there's some newer ones that I don't know about because I haven't taught young ones in quite a while. But those are the ones that stick out to me. The Texas book I really, really like because you have that opportunity to combine different lines, so you get different things going in different groups, and the percussion parts also in that are good for them. Okay, anybody else?
Yep, we have a question, Jeff, asking about your PowerPoint presentation being available. Could they email you and get that?
Yeah, in a heartbeat. Yeah, just shoot me an email and I'll attach it and send it right back to you. And I guess it'll be available on the LMEA site though too if they've registered, huh? Or no?
Yes, sir. If they are registered for this conference, then they will get these sessions soon and very soon.
Mm-hmm. Good. I want to mention this too because I skipped it a second ago. Sheely mentions this 3D band book, and I don't know if I've seen it on shelves or not recently. Maybe Sheely can chime in and tell us, but that thing is fantastic, man. I mean, and a lot of people don't know about it. It's called the 3D band book, and it's just got a little bit of everything, and it's based in keys, so you can play in G, B flats on one page, I think G minors on the other page, and you can hop back and forth, and it's very succinct and very quick. So if you have short rehearsals, it's something that you can really kind of dig into with a short amount of time and get some real work done. But that is that's an amazing little book that a lot of people don't know about. Look into it if you haven't heard of it, the 3D band book. You got anything else? Okay. Okay, so you have them for 72 minutes. All right. Okay, so yeah, 72 minutes. And if they're struggling, I'm telling you, 20 to 25 minutes a day with 72 minutes. Yeah, 20 to 25 minutes a day. You got to find a way to make it fun and engaging. I'll be honest, but when I taught school, I was on a public school. I was on a block schedule. So I had them for 90 minutes, and they just got in the habit. Kids are great, man, with routine. As long as you tell them, as long as they know what the routine is, they're going to do what it is you want them to do, because they love a routine. And my guys knew that we were going to do 30 minutes of that 90 minutes, on some kind of fundamental, or part of that too, individual playing. Kids have to learn to get over playing by themselves. And it's a great opportunity to have people, hey, little Susie, play your scale today, and have people play so everybody can hear them. And then they learn from that as well. But yeah, a good chunk of that 72 minutes, Rebecca, for sure. 20, 25 minimum. I think my memory serves. I would use that thing with any group. The 3D band book, Eric LeBlanc's question, the 3D band book, I would use that book with any group that is in an ensemble setting. And then you can probably, like an 8th grade band, it would be fine with them. It would stretch them at sometimes, but it would be great for them. Middle school, you could use it at middle school, I'm confident. All right. Oh. Okay, Rebecca, this is why I use that word tenacity. This happens to all of us. You are not the Lone Ranger, okay? This happens to everybody. You feel like you have to address the same issues every day and struggling to find time before moving on. I can feel that. So for my teaching days, that's the tenacity part. That's you got to keep at it and be patient, and it's not a magic moment, but at some point you're going to go to work and you're going to say to yourself, my band sounds better today. The fundamentals are better today. Just, hang in there and keep plugging away at it. Keep plugging away at it. Yep. That's the part, I got maybe a couple of 2 minutes here, but it's building a good band sound and having a good band. We grow up in this instant age. I can pick up my phone right now and I can go play the Marine Band, right? I live in that age and I can hear that and listen to it. Having a good band program does not function like that. Okay. There's no microwave, 30 seconds, I'm going to have a good band. That's not going to happen, gang. It's going to be, it's seed planting. Okay. So if you're a young teacher, first or second year, and you made a couple of 2s or even a 3, for goodness sake, don't worry about it. Look out. You got to look out and plant those seeds, man. Want to just plant it, water it, love it, bring it some fertilizer, give it some food, all those things, keep the bugs off of it for a whole season, right? And then again the next season. And that's how you develop a program. We live in this microwave, instant news, kind of world, and band programs just don't function like that. So I'll just put that out there. It's not going to happen fast, gang. It just doesn't. Be patient. Hang in there. Anybody else? All right. I think we're about out of time anyway. So, hey, listen, everyone. It was great to see everybody again. And like I've, let's see. Well, there's a question that popped up, I think. Yeah. Okay, I was just looking at that. Tim's comment. Yeah. Look, man, let me just say this. If you're going through a time when you're like we're going through now, I mean, I don't think there's any law out there that says you have to go to you have to go to contests. I mean, do what you can, do what you can and teach the kids and love on the kids, love on them, try to make them happy, and don't worry about. We here at NSU are doing things way different than we ever would. We're just trying to make our kids happy and comfortable so they can do well in English and math and get their degree. That's what we're about. And I think that's what we should all just, if we can go to assessment, great, do it. If you can't, just hug and love on your kids and teach them great music and do what you can this semester and move on. And I would not lose 1 minute of sleep over not going to assessment if you can't do it. But just keep teaching. Just keep teaching so we can bring them back next year. Okay. All righty. Hey, everybody. That was a lot of fun. Thanks. And then lastly, I'm available to you. There's my contact information. Would love to be able to visit with some of you outside of this environment and come in and work with your groups. I love doing it. And I love working fundamentals too. So if you want me to come in and just do fundamentals, I'm all about it. All right. So everybody have a wonderful Thanksgiving and a great rest of your conference. And I sincerely appreciate all of this. Thanks.